Hi, this is Martin Kennedy, and welcome to Policy Market. If you've ever been to South Philadelphia, Italian South Philadelphia, you'll notice something right away, and it is that the parking is crazy. There's cars parked in the middle of the street, and there's double parking all over the place. And the police don't ticket the cars. Anywhere else in the city, they'll ticket the cars for such transgressions, but not in South Philadelphia. And it's not that there's not regulation, rather it's that there's self-regulation. These people know one another. They've lived in this community for generations. They share a common culture, and therefore a social norm has emerged with respect to parking. And it's better that if it can be regulated at the very, very local level, that law enforcement allow them to do that. Now, with respect to restrooms, the social norm has been enough to carry the day across time and across cultures until very recently. And it seems that some local governments have proposed and passed legislation that would enable some people to use the restroom of their preference. Okay, so the social norm is breaking down, and therefore, in response, some states have begun to address this issue and endeavor to supersede local ordinances and regulate in this area. The response, by the way, to that is sort of accusations of bigotry or at least insensitivity, which is unfortunate because that shuts down conversation. It doesn't further conversation, and we ought to be able to talk about things. But I want to think for a moment about whether it is fair or accurate, this accusation of bigotry. It impresses me that those who favor expanding access to restrooms, that some people can use whatever restroom they want, they don't favor a regime where there is no designation whatsoever, where you get rid of the men and women signs on the bathrooms. Anybody can use any restroom they want. No, there's an understanding that gender is a reasonable way to segregate restrooms, and for reasons, for not more than one reason. There's public health and safety, modesty, and so forth and so on. It also impresses me that it's not the people I talk to, it's not the transgender person. It's not some guy who prefers dressing like a woman and would like to use the women's restroom that is the problem. The problem is more along the lines of the father's at the Nashville Public Library with his daughter and her friend, and they go into the restroom and some man exposes himself to them. And then when this man is confronted, he simply says, well, I identify more as a woman, and I use that restroom, and tucking in your shirt is something that is reasonable behavior. That's what you do in a restroom. And so this person just walks away, and really they're dangerous, and they should get some kind of treatment or help or be punished. So there's other areas I haven't thought through completely, but high school locker rooms come to mind. I think it's reasonable to think that high school boys and girls should enjoy privacy in locker rooms based on gender. These people are under 18 years of age, and for any number of reasons, you would not prefer to have someone of another gender in your locker room. Also, I'm thinking about this with respect to how it might relate to other policy areas. Some people in Tennessee prefer to have an open carry regime where you can carry your sidearm, your pistol on your hip or something like that. But I've never heard the argument that someone's saying that, well, I identify as a cowboy, and this is part of my identity, and it's important to me to be able to carry my gun where everyone can see it. And if they did propose such an argument, they'd be laughed at. And I think also about school choice and the voucher bill. And with respect to enhancing human choice, human liberty and choice, I think where you send your children to school, being able to choose that ranks high above where you should be able to use the restroom, which restrooms you should be able to use. So it's a sort of a silly issue in that sense. It seems very, very unimportant, at least to the people I've spoken with, to me. There might be a limited argument, a limited government argument against state intervention in these cases. Subsidiarity. Allow the locals to legislate and create policy that is best suited for them, that they agree upon, and so forth and so on. And that's an interesting argument, and I'd like to address it in the next video, particularly as it relates to minimum wage legislation. But for now, I just wanted to raise some interesting questions, I think interesting questions with respect to this whole, the bathroom war. And finally, I'd say that it's really in our best traditions of our culture and our country to tolerate otherwise innocuous differences, even if they're very eccentric. So that if a man wants to dress up as a woman, he ought not to be mocked or assaulted or anything like that. It's another story when you're talking about accommodating some people's preferences when there is a public health and safety component involved. And so we'll see where this issue goes. In Tennessee, it's still alive, and it'd be very interesting to see where this goes. Anyway, until next time, this is Martin Kennedy at the Policy Market. Bye-bye.